Hello, everyone. Today I'm here with a new essay entitled Why the Novel Matters, written by D.H. Lawrence. So, we shall begin the discussion with a background of the writer D.H. Lawrence. So, he was a very famous poet, was a very famous essayist, a very great novelist, and a painter. So, D.H. Lawrence is known for the novels which are very popular and generally read among the common public. He had his own style of making the sentence pattern, that is the syntax, and the grammar he used, and the plots of his novel were very straightforward and not beating around the bush. It was to the point, just like the chronicles of several generations in the life of a family. Many of his heroes, that is the protagonist of his novels, they come from the working class background, but eventually end up marrying middle or upper class women. So through this, he had a greatest objection towards the social class issues in England. He sought for the means to negate the alienation from the industrialized society, questioning the self identity. He objected that also. For this, he infused the connection between the relationship between a man and a woman, and a man and a nature. So, one such novel is Lady Chatterley's Lover. It was very controversial. It was written in England, but it could not be published there. It had a more sexually explicit content. Though that novel was published secretly in Italy, but soon it was brought to trial to the courtroom. However, this trial of Lady Chatterley's Lovers, it paved a way for the more sexually explicit content in literature in the year 1960s and the years to come. So some of his other famous works are Sons and Lovers, where he talks about Oedipus complex, and The Plumed Serpent, which was written in the year 1926, Aaron's Rod in the year 1922, and Kangaroo in the year 1923. So all these are some of his important novels. So that is all to say about D.H. Lawrence before we get into the summary. So I hope you're clear with his background. So we shall move on to D.H. Lawrence's work, the essay Why the Novel Matters. It was published posthumously in the year 1936. So this is a very interesting text that explains the reader why the novel matters, in the sense why the novel is important, and in what ways is novel unique compared to other things in the world like religion, science, philosophy. So we shall move on. So D.H. Lawrence begins this essay with a perception of being alive. What being alive actually means. He starts by highlighting that appreciating every part and particle of a human body rather than giving an excessive importance only to the soul, mind, mm, and philosophy, the ideas, the spirit. So all these things alone will not make a person alive. But appreciating every part and particle, like the fingers you have, like the toes you have, your nose, your eyes, your mouth, Everything that is alive with your mind, you should appreciate all those things in order to feel alive in your life. He claims that a novelist is far better than a scientist, a philosopher, or a religious saint. He exclaims this because being a novelist, a person can create characters and give life to them. So when that novelist can create a character, can create a life, he will know the meaning and the value of life and a living person compared to a religious person, a philosopher, and a scientist. A novelist will clearly understand the value of life and a human being. And then he adds the belief, he adds the his opinion on the belief that the mind is more important than the body parts. Finger, no, it is very unimportant part of a body. Okay, it is not as important as mind. Okay, your nose, your eyes, your mouth, your fingers, your toes, your limbs, nothing is as important as your mind, spirit, the philosophies that come from you, the philosophies that you follow, and the ideas that come from you. Nothing is as important as these things. Okay, for the people who exclaim this, D.H. Lawrence says such people are very irrational and those ideas are very ridiculous. He says this because when you tell that your mind is alive, your fingers are also alive. When you tell that your soul is alive, okay, your whole body is alive too. So he demands the readers that being alive means appreciating every part of your body, not just your mind and your soul. And he also exclaims that your body is not merely the vessel to carry your soul and your spirit and your mind and your philosophies and your ideas. So this one is what is ridiculous to D.H. Lawrence. We are moving on to the next slide. He says that according to him, life extends from the depth. From the depth, the life extends. Depths of the human mind to the extent of the fingertips. Okay. So the life of a human being, it begins from the mind of that person till the fingertips. Till the fingertips, the life extends. So through this, he tries to explain to the readers that nothing in the human being, in the living being, in the living person is unimportant. Everything of a living person is important. Nothing is unimportant. He adds inanimate objects like pen, pan, and all those things. These are not alive. These are merely things. These are merely things. And these things demand a human being to create, to give them the life. So these things are not alive and require the alive hand, the human being, to infuse life into the work done by them. To create a pan to be used in a kitchen, it has to be designed by a human being. To create a table to be used in a hall or in a library or in the classroom, it has to be designed appropriately by a human hand, by an alive hand. To give life to the inanimate objects, alive hands requires its own manual power as well as the mental strength. So he compares the freckles on the skin and the blood in the human body to the mind that's controlling them and calls them equally alive. The freckles on the skin that people have in the Western countries, probably mostly, and the blood that is circulating in our human body, just like the mind, everything is working. Even the freckles on your skin are alive when your mind is alive. Your mind is controlling them. Your mind is controlling the appearance of the freckles. Your mind is controlling the circulation of your body. So when it can control all those things, so everything is alive in your body, not just your mind, not just your soul, not just your philosophies, not just your ideas. Everything in your body is alive. We are moving on to the comparison of a novelist and a man of religion. Let us see what D.H. Lawrence explains in this context. The importance of a man alive is understood intricately and profoundly by a novelist. More than a saint or more than a monk, being alive is understood more clearly by a novelist than the men of theology. So, religion basically depends on the theory of soul and no, the afterlife, life after death. But, but the novelist only ponders about the present moment and life in it. Seize the day. This concept is seize the day. Live life to the fullest in the present moment, the life in today. This is how he compares the novelist and the man of religion. D.H. Lawrence moves to the comparison of a novelist and a philosopher. The philosopher is used to talk about the spirit and its infinite knowledge. He believes that infinite knowledge lies in the spirit of that living person. But to the novelist, the living person is the sole container of all the knowledge. The living person himself contains all the knowledge, the understandable knowledge. So a novelist clearly believes that, as a philosopher says, the spirit contains understandable knowledge, the soul contains understandable knowledge. Whatever we do is through the spirit that we have inside. All these things are hypothetical to a novelist. It is inaccurate. While for a philosopher, thoughts and ideas are important, very significant. But for a novelist, but for a novelist, too many thoughts and ideas are a kind of disturbance. Says that any idea is meaningless until it is received and understood by a living person. The spirit, the soul may have so many ideas, understandable ideas, the ideas that are not understood. It can have so many ideas, it can possess so many ideas, just like the philosopher says. But as a novelist, D.H. Lawrence exclaims that any idea, only when it reaches the receiver and only when the receiver understands those ideas, that idea is understood and it is meaningless. The idea that is received and understood alone is meaningless, he says. It does not have a life of its own. Ideas do not carry life. Okay? So, the man that is alive is much important compared to the lifeless ideas and the concept. Just like how a living hand and a living being is important to add life to an inanimate objects like a fan, a man, a receiver, and a sender, a living being is important to give life to the lifeless ideas. In that way, a man becomes important, not the spirit, not the soul, not the philosophy, not the mind. So that's how he gives importance to the novelist compared to a philosopher, explaining all the principles of the ways they work in their own ways. To discuss about the differences in the principles of a novelist and a scientist, we all know what do scientists do with the human bodies. They merely need a lying dead and a motionless body to experiment something, to observe something, or as a specimen to discover something. So, a human being to a scientist is a group of organs, just a mere group of organs. A brain, all they need is a brain, heart, liver, kidneys, and all these things to experiment on something. But to a novelist, every living person is important. Every part of a living person is important because all those little parts make a whole human being together. And in that way, a living person becomes a superior living being, not merely a dead body, dead motionless body, but to a novelist, a human being is a superior living being. That's how he says this difference. Coming to the importance of a novel, we have discussed in what are all the ways that novelist is different from a religious person, a philosopher, and a scientist. Now we are discussing about the importance of a novel itself. So Lawrence describes the importance of a novel. According to him, it is a window to life. It is a window to life. But any novel or book is very valuable as thoughts until it is read by a human being. He says that the novel is more important than any other book because it has the power to create an impact and influence people. It can change people's lives. It can change people's personalities. It can bring success to people. He enlists the Platonic ideas or 10 commandments as very less important and less significant compared to a novel because they only attract one part of a living being, the religious part of the living being. So he calls Bible as a novel, just like a Homer's Iliad or the Shakespearean dramas and no literature we have. Just like that, Bible is also a piece of literature. It is also a novel, just like the other epics and poetry and the dramas we have. D.H. Lawrence feels that a novel is able to provide an influential story with different characters that makes the story adaptable in the sense fluidity and the dynamic. So novel celebrates change. It accepts change. It embraces the change. D.H. Lawrence exclaims that there is no specific formula that reflects the nature of human beings and the actions that they undertake in their lives. So this is a kind of unpredictability and uncertainty. So this unpredictability and uncertainty are the most important things that pave the way for the number of emotions in a human life. Because when there is no change and when there is only constancy existing, just like an inanimate object or a non-living thing, it is very difficult for a human being to express the emotions of love, fear, affection, appreciation, care, and make the bonds of emotion. That will become difficult for them. He further believes that if a person wants to be alive, there must be a goal and a desire inside him. A man without goal is dead. So all the emotions that we have in life, like the power, the compassion, love, care, even the possessions we have, the wealth, these are all just a reason for a man to live. Just the mere reasons for a man to live and not just exist in a dead life. That's it. To conclude, D.H. Lawrence believes that a novel is a guiding force for a life. It reflects the changeable nature of a human life and the importance of change. Changes are very important in life. It foreshadows, it predicts the changeability of human nature and the beliefs. It jumps human nature and beliefs, they jump and they keep on changing. It never postulates it never postulates the absolute right or wrong and knows that they can change with surroundings and circumstances. Human beings and the nature are prone to change. Thus, a novel is quite influential, just like how we saw in the previous slide, and it can help a man to live his life to the fullest and become a man that is alive, who is alive. And this is what makes a novel important. And this is how the novel possesses more power compared to the books of theology, the books of philosophy, and the scientific books. I hope you have understood what we have discussed today. Thank you. Have a great day.